another unmanifested, eternal being who does not perish even when all existences perish. So Shri Krishna has told Arjun already that it's a very simple rule that the manifest is come from the unmanifest, and then the manifest merges with the unmanifest again. Now in this verse, the word tu is used meaning but. Then the word tasmat means this. And therefore Shri Krishna is referring to the unmanifested that he was speaking about before. He says that that's different from this unmanifested form, which the manifest beings come forth. There is yet another unmanifested eternal being who does not perish even when all existences perish. What does this mean? Two types of unmanifest have been shown in this verse. If we show it in a simple meaning, then this is what has happened. One unmanifest is such that it becomes manifest, and when it becomes manifest, then it comes back into the unmanifest. Such an unmanifest changes and becomes with form. But there is another unmanifest beyond this that does not become manifest at all and does not change at all. It does not perish when all things perish, when everything else perishes. The reason for this is that it was not created when everything else was created, and it did not change when everything else changed. This means that when everything will perish, then there will be no reason for this to perish. If we take it by way of a simple example, let us say that we're in this room and we have placed this idol in this room. This idol has been there the whole time. The idol is there and will always be there. And apart from the idol, a lot of people are here. What they do is that 7 p.m. the discourse of the Gita takes place. Therefore people begin coming in at 6:30 or 6:45. People go and sit at their places. And when it is 8:30 p.m. and the discourse finishes, then people begin praying. Then people begin to get up to leave the room. They have come from the unmanifest, become manifest, met each other and gathered, attended a satsang, holy discourse, attained wisdom, got bliss, and then went back again. But is this idol going to go anywhere? No, because this idol is there. Because we came, we all have to go back. The idol did not come, and that is why it does not have to go back. In the same way, at the root, everything is unmanifest, and ultimately, everything is unmanifest. But there are two parts to the unmanifest. One part is such that it goes from the unmanifest to the manifest, and once again goes back to the unmanifest. The second part is such that it does not go from the unmanifest to the manifest, and therefore when that which is manifest is destroyed, this unmanifest that did not go to the manifest does not become destroyed because it did not become manifest. It has not changed, and this is the supreme truth. The word para is used, and Srimad Adi Shankaracharya Ji defines this as paraha vatir kata bhinaha, as distinct, outside something, and different. Then Srimad Adi Shankaracharya Ji asks the question that kutaha gatir kataha kutaha bhina, what is it different from? What is it separate from? Shankaracharya Ji then says that the word tasmat, meaning this, is used, and therefore Shri Krishna is saying that it is different from that which was described in the previous verses. Tasmat gurvokta. In the last few verses, the unmanifest that was described is that which becomes the manifest. And there is another unmanifest with a capital U that is different from this unmanifest that was described in the previous verses. Ramanujacharya Ji says that the definition of avyakta, unmanifest, is kenachit pramana na vyajara iti avyaktaha, is something that proof of which cannot be described in any way. We have different proofs such as authoritative proof, our own proof, or proof of experience. If we believe something, then how do we believe it? If a person does not pay attention while lighting fireworks, then they become burnt. This is a principle that we all believe. But how do we believe it? There are many people who are such that they say that when we were young, then our elders told us to be careful, and whatever our elders say is right. This is authoritative proof. Some people say that when we light fireworks, then it's written on top that we should be careful at the time of lighting fireworks, otherwise we will get burnt. They've done right to write this. This is written proof. Some other people may say that our elders used to say this, but I do not believe it. I also do not believe what was written on top. But one time when I was young, I went to play with a firecracker, and the firecracker popped in my hand, so my whole Diwali was ruined. Now I am careful whenever I pop it. This is proof of experience. There are many different types of proofs. In one way or other, we accept that object. Then that what is that which is unmanifest? We can accept that which is manifest in one way or other. This is because it comes within the grasp of the senses. For example, it can be seen by the eyes, heard by the ears, touched with the hands, etc. This is accepted. But the unmanifest is defined as by Ramanujacharya as Ganachit Brahmana na Vyacha iti avyaktaha, is defined as something the proof of which cannot be described in any way. You cannot give any type of proof for the unmanifest. No type of proof will work for it. This is the unmanifest. If you ask whether someone has seen it, then people will say, no, we have not seen it. If you ask whether someone has heard it, then people will say, no, we have not heard it. If you ask someone if they have heard about it, then they have heard about it, then people say that no, we have not heard it. But if you ask someone whether they have smelled it, then people say that no, we have not smelt it. If you ask someone whether they have touched it, then people will say no, we have not touched it. Proof of the senses does not work with the unmanifest. There is written evidence, but the written evidence says that what can we call the unmanifest? Yato vacho nivartante aprapya manasa saha. This is an experience that cannot be described by words, but it can be described by experience. The rishis said that the senses and the mind become tired before they can describe it, and I cannot give the experience that I have got to you through words. The medium changes. The rishis said that it is certainly there and that they have experienced it, but when they sit down to explain their experience, then the mind and the senses both become tired. That is why it cannot be described. Therefore, there is not even written proof. That which cannot be proved is that unmanifest. And Ramanujacharya says that so samveda sadhanara kara iti artaha. How then can it be known? It can be known only to itself. A person has to know it by themselves, through themselves. One can only recognize the self through the self. Nobody else can come and give us an identification of ourselves. If I were to say it in simple language, then another person can come up to us and give us an identification of someone else. They do say that I do not know person A, so person B can come up to me and tell me that who person A is. He can give me an identification of person A, but can person B, can you give me an identification of myself that you are this and you are that? How can you do that? I have to do that myself. And even if he tries to identify me, then his identification will remain incomplete. This is because nobody knows me as much as I know myself. And the soul and the supreme truth is nothing apart from me. And that is why Ramanujacharya says that so samveda sadhanara kara iti artaha, which means how then can it be known? It can only be known to itself. Yamdev in the Kathopanishad says while preaching to Nachiketa that Nayam Atma Pravachane Na Labhyo Na Medaya Na Bahuna Shutena Yame Vesha Bhutena Tanuswam. One does not attain the soul from listening to discourses, nor does one attain it from being intelligent or from listening. One only attains the soul and God when the soul and the God decide to shower the grace on him. One can only know the self through the self. One cannot know it from someone else. The unmanifest truth is described in this verse as Sanatana. You all know what it means by now, eternal. Srimad Adi Shankaracharya uses the word Chirantan to describe Sanatana, eternal, and Ramanujacharya says that Utpati Vinasha Narhayatan Nityaha, which means it is eternal because it is not subject to origination and therefore it is not subject to annihilation. It is eternal because it is not subject to origination and therefore it is not subject to annihilation. Saints explain that the word Sanatana means something that is new every day and yet ancient at the same time. If we were to say it in other words, then it is ancient and yet at the same time it is new every day. This is what Sanatana, eternal, is. In Sanskrit, a river is called Sanatana, eternal. Why? This is because the water in the river changes every day, and not just every day, but that each and every moment, yet that river is the same as it was before. This river is Sanatana. There was a very big thinker by the name of Heraclitus who said that you cannot step twice in the same river, We cannot bathe in the same river twice. If we go to bathe in the Ganga river in Hardwar and we hold on to the rope to dip our foot, then when the water feels cold, then we pull our foot out. Then we put our foot back in. The Ganga river in which our toe went is not the same Ganga river in which our knee went later. So many thousands of liters of water have passed in between them. Therefore, the water in which our toe went was different from the water in which our knee went. And the water in which our waist goes is even different. The Ganga river changed. This is constantly taking place. The water in which our chest goes is different, and when we take a full dip in the water, then it's completely different water. So much water changes between the time we put our first toe in and the time in which we put our head in. It changed, and despite that we say that I took a dip in the same place as where my grandfather bathed. In reality, millions and millions of gallons of water have passed from when the person's grandfather bathed there and when the person himself bathed there. This is Sanatana, eternal. It is only known by this one name. In the same way, then unmanifest is Sanatana, eternal. It constantly stays there. The unmanifest is Chirantan, and this unmanifest is Sanatana, eternal. What else can you call the unmanifest? The next verse shows us this. The three verses that are the 20th, the 21st and 22nd verses are all joined together. Let's take verse 21 first.